Rain needles the Ohio night, a ceaseless hiss over Maple Street. In the house with the sagging porch and the no trespassing sign half buried under wet leaves, a single lamp flickers, on, off, on, like a tired heartbeat. The neighbors call it a graveyard for objects. Towers of boxes, crates of tangled cords, radios holding whispers no one asked to hear. Inside, Claire Whitmore stands barefoot on cold linoleum, listening. A clock without hands ticks anyway. Somewhere deep in the labyrinth of her things, something has begun to rot. A siren yawns in the distance and dies. Claire's throat tightens. She reaches for a bottle in the cabinet but stops. Tonight, she will face the smell. Tonight, she will follow it to its source. When she does, when she parts a curtain of moth-eaten coats and sees what lies curled behind a stack of damp newspapers, her lungs lock. The rain, the clock that isn't, the shivering lamplight, all fall away. A man is dead in her house. Claire Whitmore is 40, but the years sit heavy on her like winter. She lives in a scuffed, clapboard house at the edge of Whitlow, a small town in southeast Ohio where everything smells like rain or diesel. She keeps the blinds drawn, the television on mute, and her phone off unless she needs to call for refills. The porch groans under the weight of cardboard. Things that might be useful, things that might remember her if people won't. The morning light in Whitlow is the color of dishwater. It pools on her floors and finds dust she's tried to ignore. She is an archivist of the almost forgotten, broken clocks that still tick, shoeboxes full of knobs and cabinet handles, VHS tapes of commercials no one remembers. Some days she walks through her rooms like a museum visitor. Other days she sits on the edge of her bed and cannot move. She speaks little. When she does, her voice is low, careful, apologizing before the words have a chance to hurt anyone. She once had a mother with a laugh like wind chimes, but the house remembers her mother only through things. Recipe cards curled at the edges, a wool scarf smelling faintly of winter. She once had a husband briefly back when she believed in beginnings that stay. He left in the spring and took the good pants. The rest, no one claimed. Depression, the doctor says, scribbling on a pad. Anxiety, insomnia. The labels slide onto her like stickers, never quite sticking. She is more than the labels. She is also less. On Maple Street, the neighbors have opinions the way they have porches, wide and obvious. The woman next door with a camera pointed almost casually at Claire's lawn shakes her head when Claire drags home a crooked dresser. It attracts them, the neighbor mutters to her husband, and them means all the shadows Claire cannot see. The night the stranger enters, the wind slips under the siding and makes the house shiver. Claire takes her pills at 9 and lies on the couch. The television glows with a frozen baseball game. She dreams of water and wakes to water, rain slashing the windows, a gutter coughing itself empty. She doesn't hear the back door. She doesn't hear the window. She does not hear the soft footfalls, the wet clothes dripping on her worn-out rug, the breath that catches with a damp rattle. 4 days later, a smell blooms in the air. It begins as a question, a sweet and sour curl in the nostrils. By morning, it is a statement. By night, it is a command. Claire, bleary and slow, follows it past the boxes marked kitchen, keep, past the ones marked sentimental and fix someday. She pushes aside a wooden wardrobe door that sticks, and beneath a sagging heap of overcoats, men's coats, mostly, thrifted and saved, because sleeves are like hands that might hold you, she finds him. A man in his 50s, beard matted with rain and time, a wool cap pulled low, a face that rested and never rose. Claire's chest tightens until sound disappears. The only noise is that ghostly clock tick from a clock with no hands, from a life that has been counting down without her permission. When she can breathe, she reaches for the phone. Her fingers shake, the numbers blur. On the third try, she manages the sequence she has dialed for broken bones and basement floods. Whitlow County 911, what's your emergency? Asks a voice that is brisk and awake. There's a man, Claire says and swallows. He's dead. In my house. The police arrive in yellow raincoats and practical boots. Their radios cackle with half sentences. They speak gently at first, then loudly, then gently again, when gentle doesn't work. Claire keeps pressing her thumb into the soft meat of her palm to keep from floating away. Detective Saul Mercer is last through the door, gray at the temples, mustache trimmed like he cares about lines. He stands in the entry and takes it in. The clutter, the chaos mapped like a city with no streets. He smells copper and bleach and the dense sugar of rot. Miss Whitmore? His voice is steady, but there's a quiet grief in it that Claire cannot place. I'm Detective Mercer. I'm going to ask a few questions. The neighbor with the camera watches from her porch, mouth pinched like she's nursing a lemon drop. Her name is Mrs. Klein. Claire knows because Mrs. Klein once slipped a brochure about compulsive saving disorder under Claire's doormat like a benediction. Tonight, her camera eye is on, red light blinking, hungry for a story. The crime scene techs pick their way through Claire's things like they're crossing ice. They find the knife in a kitchen drawer, dried with something that looks too much like blood to be anything else. They find smears on a doorknob, a handprint on the side of a box. They find the back window unlocked. In the trunk of an old dresser, wrapped in a scarf, they find a shard of glass with brown on the edge. Did you know him? Mercer asks. Claire looks again at the man, at the grooves where life used to be. No. Did anyone else have access to the house? She shakes her head. No one comes here. Mercer's partner, a younger detective named Alma Reyes with a gaze like a line drawn under a word, peels back a layer of coats and flinches. The smell rides the air like a fog. There are footprints, she says. Back door to here, one set, barely. Claire fumbles with memory. That night is a dark room with no light switch. I was asleep, she says. I take medication. For sleep. You didn't notice him? At all? A pause, long enough for rain to crawl under skin. Claire is a person with many words and never the right ones. She presses her nail crescent into her palm. No. The medical examiner calls time like he's at a boxing match. Male, approximate age 50 to 60. Rigor indicates several days. We'll know more after on the porch. The air tastes like wet bark. Mrs. Klein's husband offers coffee to the officers with the desperate politeness of a man who wants to be on the right side of something. He mentions in the soft glee of someone useful that their exterior camera caught movement the night the storm broke. Detective Reyes returns with a flash drive. You might want to see this, she tells Mercer, and her eyes do not quite meet his. They watch in the back of the cruiser, wipers shoving rain aside. The video is grainy, black and white, streetlight silvered. It shows the silhouette of a man slipping along Claire's fence. It shows the back door opening. It shows, hours later, a shape on the porch, hunched and moving, dragging something long and unwieldy. The shape is woman-sized. The shape has Claire's hair. Mercer's jaw flickers. Reyes angles the screen. Looks like she moved a body, she says. Or something. Or something, Mercer says, because something keeps him from standing on a trap door before he knows it's there. Inside, a tech lifts the dead man's sleeve and finds a tattoo. U.S. Army, a small patriot with wings, faded to a shadow. Another tech takes a swab from the dried smear on Claire's kitchen knife. Claire sits on a milk crate, arms around herself. Her eyes move with the slow focus of someone learning to be seen again. I called, she says to no one. I called as soon as I saw. I called, tell me about your camera, Mercer says to Mrs. Klein. Oh, it's very good, she says. Night vision. Voice too, if I turn it on. She lowers her voice to a confessional whisper. We've had trouble, detective. With people like that. They come around the alley. Claire's place is, Open, Mercer offers. Mrs. Klein sips triumph. A magnet. By noon the next day, the story has a name. The local paper speaks it with relish. The Hoarder Murderess. The radio mentions a reclusive Whitlow woman, 40, arrested on suspicion of homicide. On social media, neighbors who never knew her now know exactly the kind of person she is. The arraignment is short. Claire's public defender whispers about plea deals like potions. We can position for manslaughter, he says. Negligent homicide. The state wants blood, but maybe they'll accept. He stops when he feels her go rigid, like she is bracing for a wave. I didn't, she says. I called you. The trial unfolds in a room that smells of varnish and old paper. The prosecutor is clean-shaven and sharp, with a smile built for morning shows. He shows the knife. He shows the video. He shows a photograph of the dead man's body among coats, and the jury flinches not at the body, but at the mess, the evidence of a life that does not tidy itself for visitors. Expert witnesses talk about compulsive hoarding disorder, about impulsivity, about paranoia and delusional thinking. None of them have stepped inside her house except wearing gloves. The defense is small and sensible. No motive, no prior violence. A 911 call made by a woman who could have said nothing. It is not enough. The jury watches the video again. The shape drags something. The shape is her. The shape is undeniable in a world that prefers crisp lines to blur. Claire is convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 30 years. She hears it like it is happening to someone on television. She doesn't cry. She holds the edge of the table until her knuckles blanch. In prison, the world shrinks to a schedule. Claire counts lint on her blanket to pass the time. She writes in a composition notebook because there are things she cannot let drift away. She writes the night like a riddle. He was already dying when he entered. Something about his breath, something about his hands, a smell like gasoline, a cut on the scalp that wasn't from my home. She writes about voices outside, deep and quick, about a scrape by the window hours before she woke. She writes about the dream she had, a man in a wool cap knocking on a door that would not open, whispering, "It's not your fault." She writes as if she were leaving breadcrumbs through a forest of days. Years fold. The world outside her slows to a rumor. Mrs. Klein sells her home and moves to Florida. Whitlow gets a new coffee shop and a pride parade in a sinkhole that swallows half a cul-de-sac. Claire's house sits with shutters half closed, its interior sealed by the court. Dust shifts from one box top to another. Mice make small decisions. On the 9th year of Claire's sentence, Detective Saul Mercer retires. He is slower now and limps slightly, a souvenir from a foot chase 2 decades back. His daughter would have been 30 this year if she had lived. She kept a room like Claire's, stacked to the ceiling, a paper cathedral he could not pray in because grief made his hands clumsy. He has strong opinions about mess now, mostly that everything important hides in it. He spends his first month of freedom fixing a fence and failing at fishing. The second month, he walks into the evidence room of the Whitlow PD and signs out a box with Claire's case number on it. It is a private resurrection. He tells no one. He sits at his kitchen table with the box to his left and a spiral notebook before him, and plays the neighbor's video again and again until the pixels blur and the shape of a woman is a smudge moving through rain. He watches the timestamp. He writes it down. He checks the timestamp against the 911 call log. The times don't match, not by much, by hours. He drives to Mrs. Klein's old house. The new owner is a high school teacher who reshaped the yard into neat circles of mulch and plotted shrubs. The teacher keeps an old hard drive in a drawer, a leftover from the previous owners, and is happy to give Mercer a copy if it means being part of a story. On the drive home, the cornfields are flat and gold and the sky is hard blue, autumn sharpening its teeth. Mercer calls a favor from a state lab tech with a fondness for puzzles. "Can you look at this?" he asks. "I want a clean copy if possible." "No." Edits. He doesn't say who might have edited it or why. He doesn't say out loud that the video always felt like a lake he couldn't see the bottom of. The edited timeline collapses like a cheap card table. The restored footage reveals more than grain. The dragging is not dragging. The shape on the porch is Claire lugging a box of newspapers to the curb. The dead weight behind her? A rolled rug, probably from the living room. He can even see her re-roll it after the wind catches, see her kick at the corner. More, there is sound. Rain, yes, and the thin wail of a siren, but also voices from the alley behind the fence. Male, tense, hurried. "Check the stash," one says. "Boulevard, man." In and out, a dog barks and a bottle shatters. A man curses, then a thud. Mercer closes his eyes and hears the heavy, wet sound of a skull meeting something harder than itself. The lab tech isolates another detail, a shadow slipping in the opposite direction of the camera toward Claire's back door. A hand gloved in black, a flick of a lighter. For a moment, the lighter flares and catches a face in the alley beyond, gaunt, feverish, a scar like a punctuation mark at the jaw. Mercer freezes the frame and breathes through his teeth. He knows that face. Everyone in Whitlow knows that face. Tobias Toby Pike, local low-level dealer with big-level aspirations, always hovering at the edge of real trouble, arrested twice, slid free twice. 2 years after Claire's conviction, Pike disappeared. Rumor pinned him to another state, or a shallow grave. Mercer flips through the property report of Claire's house and lands on a list of items impounded. 1 knife, 1 glass shard, various clothing, odorous, VHS tapes, audio cassettes. He circles audio cassettes. He circles VHS. He swears softly, puts on his coat, and drives to the evidence storage facility, where the clerk looks over his glasses and says, "You back?" Like retirement is a joke Mercer hasn't gotten yet. The VHS tapes are commercials from the 90s, obscure and cheerful, selling an America that doesn't exist anymore. The audio tapes are stranger, clipped conversations, weather reports, fragments of a world recorded as if to preserve time itself. On a tiny microcassette labeled with one word, blue, Mercer hears a man's voice, faint and rasping and close. It says, "Don't let her take it on. Not her, not her fault." Mercer sits back in his chair. The room smells like cardboard and cold dust. He thinks about his daughter, who recorded everything, and yet never left a note long enough to explain why rooms had to become fortresses. He thinks about Claire Whitmore, who kept the world because she could not trust it to keep her. He thinks about the dead man with an army tattoo, about the shape in the alley, about a lighter flare like a tiny sunrise. He digs into the dead man's identity. James Alden, 52, veteran, missing person in county records 3 years before, then reappeared and vanished again. Minor arrests for trespassing, loitering, public intoxication. He had a sister once in Columbus. She cried at the trial. Claire remembers the sound more than the face. Mercer goes to see her. The sister keeps her grief on the mantle in a frame. Jimmy's head wasn't right after he got back, she says. He'd lose days. But he was kind. He'd help folks carry groceries. He'd apologize when he didn't need to. She rubs her thumb over the frame like it's skin. He called me sometimes, on payphones. Said he got pushed around on Maple Street. Said some man named T had him moving boxes for a few dollars. I told him to stay away. T, Mercer says. Toby? He doesn't say Pike. He doesn't need to. Back in Whitlow, Mercer turns over stones. He leans on old informants who once traded secrets for cigarettes. He buys gas station coffee for a man named Harlan who lived under the railroad bridge and saw everything because no one saw him. Harlan says the house on Maple was a stash sometimes, sir. Women like that, no offense, they don't see what they don't want to see. Boys like Toby? They see what they want to use. What stash? Mercer asks. And Harlan points with a paper cup at the world like it's one big stash. Alley, back door, quick drop in the crawl space. Jimmy told me he banged his head that night helping. Blood on the fence, I swear to God. Then he went inside to get dry, and he didn't get back up. Mercer finds the fence. It has been replaced, neat white panels stapled fresh. He wanders the property line anyway, counting paces, imagining shadows moving like slender fish in the night. He stands by the back door of Claire's house and holds his breath. If he were 25 and the kind of person who writes on walls, he would carve the word "listen here." He petitions the court to unseal the house for a day. The judge pretends to be irritated and then signs because the judge is human and boredom is also a kind of death. Inside, the air tastes like box glue and time. Mercer moves slowly, respectful, through the rooms. He lifts a stack of record sleeves and sneezes. He kneels by the crawl space and shoves the flashlight in. Dust scatters like 1,000 insects arrested mid-flight. He finds a hole near the joist that leads to the alley, a small practice tunnel. He finds a plastic bag degraded to ghost lace and the hard, dirty glitter of old, cheap glassine wrappers. He sits on the floor and stares at his hands because they're shaking, and that is new. Then, in the closet off the hallway, behind a decade of coats Claire could not throw away, he sees the box. It's labeled in sharp black marker, "Keep Tapes." On top is a small brown package taped shut with blue painter's tape. Across it, Claire's handwriting, "Do not open until you're brave." Mercer opens it because bravery isn't the right measure anymore. Duty is. Inside, there are 4 micro cassettes and a note, pages long, written in Claire's tidy 6th grade teacher hand. "If you are listening, then you are either me or someone who cares enough to keep listening. I used to be a 911 dispatcher. No one knows that because it feels like talking about a life I dreamed. I kept these tapes because I keep everything, but also because memory lies and plastic doesn't. On the night Jimmy died, I woke to a voice. It was the voice from 100 calls from years before, calm and breaking, asking for help he couldn't name. I found him, but he wasn't mine to save. There were men outside. I heard them. I thought if I pretended not to, none of it would be real. I'm sorry. The ink smudges. Mercer threads the first tape into a tiny recorder. A hiss blooms, a little universe of noise. Then a voice, Jimmy's. So close it makes Mercer look around, as if the man has stepped into the room. I knocked, Jimmy whispers. Door opened. It's warm, smells like old paper. I don't want to cause no trouble, ma'am. My head got hit by Toby. He said I was dumb, said if I told I'd sleep in the river. There's a scraping sound, a cough, a soft woman's voice that could be Claire's or a memory of Claire's. Sit, okay? I'll get a towel. Don't call nobody, Jimmy pleads. They'll say it was you. Footsteps in the alley, a man's voice unclear, and then, crawl space. Move. Now another tape is a recording of the alley itself. Claire used to record the sounds at night to help herself sleep, as if their presence meant the world was still turning. On it, men at 2:14 a.m., the lighter flare, the code word blue, and stash is safe, and then softer, she's weird, won't look you in the eye. Good for cover. On the last tape, the recorder is close to Claire's chest. You can hear her heart if you listen hard. The door creaks, rain rushes. If something happens, she whispers, to herself, to anyone, it wasn't me. Mercer brings everything to the DA with a face like thunder and a voice like gravel. You put a woman in a cage, he says, because her life looked messy. You did it with a cut-up video and a knife that never had the right blood type on it. You did it because a story that fits is easier than one that aches. The DA hedges and huffs and says words like new evidence and chain of custody and legal standards. Mercer says Toby Pike and slides a photo across the table from the lighter flare and watches the DA go pale. There is a hearing. It smells like varnish and old paper again, but this time the people breathing the air know they have been breathing it wrong. The judge, different now, younger, reads the motion to vacate and looks at Claire like a human being. Claire, sitting small in her too big suit, watches Detective Mercer like he's a door swinging open. He nods, barely. She exhaled then, soft, like setting down a weight she forgot she carried. The conviction is vacated. The state drops charges without prejudice, which is a phrase that sounds like mercy, but tastes like iron. The newspaper prints an apology in column 3 under a car ad. The radio leads with weather. Claire walks out of prison on a Thursday in late October. The sky is a blue bowl, the air thin and bright. She wears a plain gray coat and shoes that belong to someone else. At the gate, there is no one with flowers. There is Detective Mercer, holding a thermos and 2 paper cups. I don't know if you drink coffee, he says. She holds the cup in both hands, savoring the heat like a story with a happy ending. I used to, she says, when nights were long. They drive to her house. On Maple Street, the trees are bare fingers. The porch boards still grown. The no trespassing sign is mostly leaf now. He unlocks the door and steps back. She stands in the threshold and closes her eyes. The smell is dust and cedar and a faint whisper of her mother's wool scarf. She steps inside. "Some of this is evidence," Mercer says. "Some of it's yours." She nods. "It's all mine." Even what isn't. They move slowly through the rooms. The light coming in is gentle, as if the world is apologizing for being too bright. Claire stops at the hallway closet and lets her fingers catch in the fringe of an old shawl. She smiles without showing teeth. "I labeled a box once," she says, "for when I would be brave." "I saw it," Mercer says. "You were brave." They find the last sealed box together, small, lighter than it looks, blue tape crisp across the top. She peels it back with careful fingers. Inside, a cassette with a piece of masking tape labeled "Dispatch, December 18. A Polaroid of a young woman in a headset with tired eyes, Claire A., lifetime ago, and a folded napkin from a diner long closed, with a phone number that reads Jimmy if you ever need to talk. Claire threads the cassette. The hiss is a familiar ocean. Then her younger voice fills the room, calm, firm, the voice people trusted on their worst days. 911, what is your emergency? A quiet man breathes. "I'm just sorry," he says. "Is sorry an emergency?" "Sometimes," she says. "Tell me where you are." Jimmy gives a corner. The call is simple and human. A man asking for a reason. A woman offering her voice as a rope. Claire listens to her old self, the one who built ladders out of language, and she cries finally, not like a storm, but like a steady rain after a dry season. Mercer finds, wedged under the box, a small Ziploc bag with a USB drive. A note in Claire's hand. "I recorded over the years. If my house tells a story, let it be all of it." On the drive are backups, audio, scans, lists. It is meticulous. A cathedral of order inside the cathedral of clutter. It is what saves her a second time. Because when he hands the drive to the state's attorney, and they piece together the timeline and the alley voices and the lighter flare and the mention of blue, a code tied to a regional syndicate, they reopen not just Claire's case, but several others. They find where Toby Pike went. Nowhere. He lies in a shallow grave 3 counties over, betrayed by men he once called brothers. He cannot be arrested, but the men who can are. The town adjusts its memory of Claire. The coffee shop offers her a free latte under a chalkboard sign that says, "Welcome home, Claire," in a handwriting that tries too hard to be friendly. Mrs. Klein's house, still neat, is no longer watching. The new owners wave like neighbors. She waves back, uncertain, and then with a little grit in it. At night, Claire opens windows. She lets the house breathe. She sorts 1 box a day, touching each item, asking it if it still holds her or if it's time to let it go. She keeps the scarf that holds winter. She lets the broken clocks go. She keeps the tapes. She labels a new box, "Keep, Mercy," and places inside it a paper cup with a coffee ring and the note Mercer left. "You weren't seen. I see you now." Mercer visits sometimes. They drink coffee and sit in the quiet. He does not fill the air with advice. He names birds outside the window because naming things tethers them. His limp is worse at night. He doesn't mention it. He looks at the room with the closet where a man once died and sees the way sunlight lies there gently, as if trying to make amends. "Do you remember the smell?" she asks once. He nods. "I remember everything." His voice is rough. "And I remember the lighter flare, like sunrise." "Me too," she says. And for the first time, it is not a memory that hurts, but one that simply exists. In a town where stories travel faster than truth, a woman was buried under things and then under blame. What saved her was not a miracle, but something smaller, humbler, the stubbornness of detail, the kindness of listening, the courage to enter messy rooms and believe they contain more than shame. Some lives look like chaos from the sidewalk. Up close, they are a map of survival. Claire's house taught Whitlow that memory lives in objects, but justice lives in attention. The difference between a silhouette and a person is light, and the willingness to look twice. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the weight people carry and the thin line between judgment and truth. Leave a like, share it with someone who needs a second chance, and subscribe. Every click helps us tell more stories where compassion turns the lock and light enters the room.